Evening, Liz Redman. Hope you're all well. Melanie King, million subscribers. Mentioned the channel before. It's just on the World Fairs here, as you can see. She's had a video there at the start of the video, which I haven't played, from that Flat Earth person who we mentioned the other day, off TikTok there. Both of them, I believe, are pre-tribulationists, which I've mentioned before. So my theory, and well, it's not really my theory to be honest, but I prescribe to it, if that's the right word, or subscribe to it. The Satan's little season, and my reckoning is that all of this that we see here and all the other World Fair cities and all the other buildings were built in the millennium reign of Christ, which happened from sort of 70 AD to maybe 1070 AD, in that region, possibly added years on. History kind of kicked up about the 1500s here. And then modern day was born out of sort of the 1800s, and then they spent sort of the 1800s covering all of this up and getting rid of it all. None of this exists today. And as this woman sort of says in the first opening speech, in Mexia, well, we live in the ruins. We live in the ruins of a lost world, and we're fighting over the scraps of the world that these rich people have built. And the reality is there's plenty to go around if you wanted it to, especially with the technology we've got now. But oppression and the rat race and everything's exactly the way it's been planned to be. To be honest, again, that's. I mean, the global elites, get rid of them, you'll solve a lot of problems here. So the world's a shit show and an awful place because people have made it this way, is the reality. And it's hard to kind of explain to the full how that is the way, but it really is that the world is an awful place because people have made it this way. Primarily the rich people who are super, super, super rich, while most people have nothing. So, yeah, like these cities, for me, I think they were all built in the millennium reign of Christ. Christ came back, as he promised he would. He reigned for 1,000 years. He then left with everybody, the saints, and again, this is why like the saints are so prominent in the world today. Like, and we have all these places named after the saints. I mean, St. Petersburg is one in particular. That's another one of these magnificent cities, the likes of this, do you know what I mean? So the saints are very prominent, and the saints were going round at the time of the millennium reign and performing miracles and all sorts, do you know what I mean? This was what was going on. So this all ended, everybody pissed off, and then it's all kind of been covered up, and everything sort of like miracle wise and all this kind of crack. It's all been kind of gotten rid of for the end of the show here, because in order for a certain person to win the game here, you need people need to be atheists. You know what I mean? And that's the best possible option here for the bad team, being atheist. Oh, well, or support the wrong religion, I suppose. That could be Islam. Again, when you're beheading people and running people over and stabbing people, that's not the way of God here. You've got the text all wrong. So, it's a massive subject, this, to be honest. As I've said many a time, go and watch people who've sort of covered Satan's little season. But there's many reasons. There's many reasons for this being Satan's little season. It isn't just based on these cities and these buildings. There's a lot more to it. The Bible, passages within the Bible, modern day, and everything you're seeing in the modern day. Again, you've got to kind of claim Satan runs the world now. You know what I mean? And I kind of think people are faking tribulation to make us believe, because this person here this woman on the left, she believes we're pre-tribulation. She's another one of these people waiting on the rapture. Well, again, the deception's that deep that all you people have been deceived. All that has already happened, and we're living in Satan's little season here. Again, not before the tribulation. And everyone's, again, the level of the deception is far deeper than most people. I mean, that's why it makes perfect sense to me that this is Satan's little season, because, as I've mentioned many times, how can everyone be deceived but everybody's right here? You know what I mean? So we'll play a bit of this anyway. The main reason for doing so really was just looking at some of the cities. And the pictures, there was some good pictures of some of these cities, and again, how amazing they were. So I'll play a bit of this, hold on. So the video is called This Changes Everything.
Not a global reset. It is the beast system coming online. This is the final reset. This is what they want so that they can enslave humanity and don't have to do resets anymore. That Satan doesn't have to do that. And he controls the governments, as the Bible says. He is the God, little g, of this world. But when you hear that, you may not really understand how deep it goes. So when people say what's happening with our government, who's in our government, we're going to vote this out, we're going to do that. We already know what their plan is, just with the WEF, the UN, the one world government that they want. It's impossible. This has already been planned. They're purposely hitting the energy infrastructure. They want global famine. They want all of this so that the beast system can arise and that they can enslave those of us who are left after depopulation. But we know those are their plans, right? So people say, well, fight back. You got to fight for this and fight for your future. But what future are we fighting for? Because what we're living in now is absolutely the ghetto. Like, I literally mean the ghetto. And all you have to do is take a look at the lies they have sold us. Starting with the World's Fair. This is an easy one to just get through, to understand that we're not living in the greatest time. We aren't living in this golden age. We aren't living in the most advanced technological society. We're not. Believe it or not, we're not. And with that as well, the American dream, right, that they've sold us, that was all built on a lie. And that they have people fighting for the scraps of a world that they've created. Does that make sense? Let's watch this video. And I think it's going to start to tie together, because I don't want people worried, right? This old.
Well, yeah, again, well, I mean, be slightly worried. Things are going to shit here, you know what I mean? But yeah, ultimately, don't be worried. Again, either level. I mean, all these people here who think there's a rapture and Jesus is coming back here. I mean, you've got nothing to worry about at all. That is actually the perfect scenario. This is why this isn't probably what's happening, to be honest. Yeah, that's the perfect scenario. We get raptured and get took away from all this, and then Jesus comes back and reigns for 1,000 years. Brilliant. But that's already happened for me, and that's where all of this stuff was built. And then when the Millennium Reign ended, everybody thought, F this, we're not stopping here for Satan's little season, let's get the hell out of here. So they all left. They went north to the camp of the saints, etc., which is in the north there, and they just left all of this. They left it all. They left all the buildings. They just left it, and we came along and found it all. And it was here for a long time, as you can tell by the size and scope of these places. And it was all whitewashed and painted and made to look brand new. That's actually a definite fact of history. But yeah, these were all found. There's no way you could build any of this in 2 years. Absolutely ridiculous. No chance on earth. Especially with the technology of the time. Absolutely impossible. So, and the reason they knocked it all down is because it didn't make sense, exactly what we're saying now. And again, this isn't common knowledge that all this existed. I didn't know about any of this till, again, somebody showed me, you know what I mean? And you're like, hold on a minute, where the fuck's this? Do you know what I mean? Where the hell is this? And they're like, it's Chicago in like 1893 there. And you're like, what? Chicago in 1893? Why does it look like Rome? Like, these are all the things that should be going through your head, you know what I mean? And then you're like, hold on a minute. So where's it at today? Oh, they knocked it all down. What? Yeah, they knocked it all down. Hold on a minute then. So there was the most beautiful city you've ever seen here. And this is like every fucking World Fair. Do you know what I mean? This isn't just like Chicago 1893. It's every 2 years in every city of known to man here. So, yeah, they knocked it all down. All right. But does any of this sound practical, normal? Again, in a capitalist society, we're building all this to knock it down. None of this seems to make any sense, to be honest. So, the explanation for these places, and the kind of the two options given is Tartaria or the Millennium Reign, and then we're now in Satan's little season. Now, I learned about Tartaria originally, but some things just didn't make sense. Some things just didn't quite make sense there, which is all answered in Satan's little season for me, to be honest. So, yeah, you can sit where you want here, but my claim is if you're waiting on a rapture, it's already happened. It's absolutely already happened here. And it was a long time ago. So let's just have a listen and look at some of these pictures of more of these cities that, again, we didn't build.
World has to go. The Bible always said this world will get worse, not better. To believe it was supposed to get better is this humanist type of thinking. All right, it has nothing to do with the Bible. This whole world has to be destroyed. Right. And that's part of the process when Jesus Christ returns for the rapture and then 7 years of tribulation and then Armageddon. There is a process.
Yeah. I mean, that's the tale as we know here. But again, my claim is that's already happened, and this the Millennium Reign is what built all of these. Again, not really my theory. Of all the ones I've heard of nearly 18 years, it kind of answers a lot of questions for me anyway. So yeah, and who built all this with no technology? Again, it answers a lot of this. Again, there's a lot more to it, to be honest. But for these buildings, for me, we didn't build them.
Is when you realize the deception that they have put on us, the layers are so deep, so thick.
Yeah, well, I claim that there's another layer, and these people have been deceived again. And ultimately, they think again we're at a wrong point in the story here. They think we're 1,500 years ago, and we're not. We're in Satan's little season here. So again, and that's why again I've mentioned before. Again, exactly what she said there. She's kind of made the point for herself. Do you know what I mean? Without realizing it. Yeah, the deception is so deep and there's so many layers. Well, I think there's another layer, lass, and the layer is you're being conned, you're being deceived into thinking this is pre-tribulation, when it's fact we're further down the road here. But you know what I mean? She's actually admitting to the levels of deception there herself. Well, again, it would make a lot more sense that there is another level and that the majority of people are still deceived if everybody kind of gets my drift.
It it's really an outer body experience the first time you see it to recognize even what I'm trying to fight for with our government and fight for our freedom is even slavery. It's all been slavery. It's all been indoctrination. None of it is real. Look at the World's Fair and you tell me if anything, any of this makes any sense.
More than 130 years ago, the city of Chicago, Illinois seemed too grand to be real. This was the location of the 1893 World's Fair, also known as the Columbian Exposition. At the heart of this historical phenomenon was an ephemeral metropolis known as the White City. The fairgrounds sprawled over 600 acres, featuring more than 200 monumental structures that defied imagination. The Manufacturers and Liberal Arts Building alone covered nearly 32 acres. With the capacity to fit 4 of the great Roman Colosseum inside and seat 300.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's said to have been the biggest building in the world, even maybe to modern day, you know what I mean? I mean, look at the size of some of these buildings. And somebody, again, one of the claims is it was made of like fucking paper mache and fucking all this kind of crack. And as I've explained to quite a few people when they've said that to me, Well, one, you can't build all this out of paper mache. All these walkways, the waterways, all the fountains and the statues. So that would make you think that all the rest of it isn't made out of paper mache as well, because it all looks very much like it's made of stone and marble and etc. And not only that, if it was made of paper mache or whatever, and fucking balsa wood and all this, these roofs would not hold their own weight. Again, if you see inside of these buildings, and some of these roofs are not supported with beams in the central areas, the kind of self-supporting roofs. There's no way they would hold their own weight with weak materials here, with the size of these structures. Absolutely no way on earth. It would all collapse in on itself. So, and again, and where to believe as well, the other side of that is, where to believe that in like the 1800s here, they're knocking up buildings made of balsa wood and all this kind of crack, paper mache and fucking plaster. And none of them fell down. None of them. It was perfect every time. There was no hitches here in any of the building. It all got knocked up here in fucking 6 months to 2 years, and it was all ready to fucking go. There was not one hiccup, not one. Yeah, none of the buildings collapsed, and we had to eventually knock them all down because they were that good. They didn't fall down or anything at all. We knocked them all down. See, none of this really makes sense. And when you've seen a lot of the photos of these buildings, and even like the size of these are made of stone, right? They're made of stone. Again, all these waterways and everything, it has to be made of. I mean, just carving these waterways out would take an unbelievable amount of time. Where are you getting all the water from? You know what I mean? There's so many logistical problems with building this in the middle of nowhere. I mean, who paid for it all? Do you know what I mean? There's so many questions, and none of them really have any logical answers. That's the problem. So yet again, the claim is that we didn't build any of these. We found them. We done them. We repaired any damage that they did have. We did paint them all white. This is a fact. There is photos of them whitewashing the building, and that's all the scaffolding that you see as well in the photos. The scaffolding isn't building scaffolding; it is scaffolding for all the people to whitewash the buildings. So, yeah, for me, I can't wrap my head round personally the official story on this, and that they built this in 2 years, all these in 2 years, and they're all made of fucking paper mache or whatever. But there is some structures that still stand today that they didn't knock down, and all them are completely made of fucking stone and marble, etc. You know what I mean? Exactly like these look. They all look the same, and the ones that still stand are literally made of stone, etc. So I claim we were lied to here. You know what I mean? These were all found. And not just these buildings in America, but there's a lot of buildings in Europe that we didn't build. Like, we absolutely didn't build them. The Vatican's one of them. So there's a lot of buildings all over Europe. And again, we have knocked 95% of all of these buildings down. All these world fairs in America have gone, you know what I mean? So they've all been removed, and again, the reasoning for removing them all was because people were going to ask questions like we are now, you know what I mean? And yet again, let's state that this isn't common knowledge about these world fairs, and everybody who kind of sees it is like what I said before, like, hold on a minute, where the hell's this? And then, what, Chicago? What? When? 1893? What? Yeah, where's it at now? We knocked it all down? What? Yeah, it's just a constant stream of what, you know what I mean? So we'll play a bit more, but again, all the photos. I just again wanted to show the photos, really.
300,000 people. Its vastness was almost incomprehensible. One of the event's most iconic images is the 65-foot golden statue of the Republic, gleaming in the sun and towering over the central lagoon of an elaborate canal system. Borrowing ideas from ancient Venice, visitors could cover more territory by traveling in Venetian-style gondolas through the canals that spanned most of the fairgrounds. Norway even sailed a full-sized replica of a Viking ship across the ocean to be put on display. Approximately 27 million people from around the world were introduced to foods that have since become universally recognizable, such as peanut butter, Hershey's chocolate, Pabst Blue Ribbon, Cracker Jacks, juicy fruit gum, and Vienna sausages, to name a few. The integration of electrical power into nearly every aspect of our lives can, in many ways, be traced back to this event. Electricity lit the night, with the grounds illuminated by more than 100,000 incandescent light bulbs, a recently patented invention at the time. Technological marvels such as the first practical electric automobile and the first electric kitchen with an automatic dishwasher were also introduced. The entertainment area brought to the public the concept of amusement parks, with attractions, sideshows, international villages, and the first widespread use of souvenir merchandise like postcards, coins, and other memorabilia. Interestingly, spray paint and the concept of whitewashing can also be traced to the fair. The very first Ferris wheel was created for the event by bridge builder and steel magnate George Washington Gale Ferris. As the story goes, he sought to rival the Eiffel Tower, the highlight of the 1889 Paris Fair. At 264 feet tall, his wheel could accommodate 2,160 people at a time and offered panoramic views of the entire fairgrounds. The precursor to the electric moving sidewalk from the 1900 Paris Expo was also debuted in Chicago. It was constructed on the pier to save people from having to walk the 2,500-foot length to and from their steamships. Much like its successor in Paris, there were multiple platforms moving at different speeds in a looping circuit. The first platform was for standing and moved at only 3 miles per hour, while the second, fitted with benches, moved slightly faster at 6 miles per hour. As we delve deeper into the World's Fair events, a pattern begins to emerge, one that seems to defy the conventional history we've all been taught. In cities all over the world, we consistently see the same grand and ornate structures, civil engineering and infrastructure projects being constructed on a colossal scale within an impossible time frame. Less than 30 years after the Civil War, we find cities like Chicago looking as if they could be part of Vatican City or anywhere else in Old World Europe. Yet we're told that everything was built using wood, plaster, and temporary materials, with the intention of demolishing them when the fair ended. However, without exception, some isolated buildings still stand today because some were constructed with permanent materials. Everything else got destroyed. But we get a glimpse of the craftsmanship involved through structures like the Art Institute of Chicago and the Museum of Science and Industry. In Chicago's case, the majority of the fairgrounds didn't need to be demolished because they were conveniently destroyed by fire a few months after the event ended. Why were certain ones constructed from permanent materials? And why did they so often hold the title of the world's largest building at the time? It raises the question, how could the world's largest buildings have been constructed using mostly temporary materials? Are we to believe that just over a century ago, people made a habit of building some of the largest, most magnificent, and ornate buildings ever seen, only to use them for a few months? Even if we disregard the buildings themselves, the earthworks involved in these projects would challenge modern capabilities and equipment under such tight timelines. And most importantly, why would they do all of this just to destroy it? Could the World's Fair events have been the perfect cover to hide the remnants of a unified global system that existed before the upheaval of the Civil War and 2 world wars were used to reshape our world? The similarities between the narratives surrounding the fairs, the architecture, and the scale all seem to point to something more than coincidence. It suggests a carefully orchestrated erasure of a past we were never meant to remember. We have to ask ourselves, how much of our history has been rewritten? What has been lost? And how much has been hidden in plain sight?
Now, I tried to make this bigger on the screen, but guys, understand these are vertical videos. I see people complaining like, why are you so big on the screen and the video so small? Guys, it's what fits on the screen. So I make myself bigger to fit in the...
Yada, yada, yada. So, as we can see here, I mean, look at these buildings. They're not made of fucking paper mache and that. No way, you can tell they're made of fucking concrete. So... and the ones that still stand today, very few of them, are made of concrete, weirdly, you know what I mean? Again, I mentioned this, the earthworks, these waterways, not just that, the islands, all sorts going on there. The earthworks would take a lot of time, never mind building the buildings. Where's the work, like the million workforce out, where they all living while they're building, who's feeding them? Oh, one should really start thinking about this and the logistics of everything and the people and where they were living and who's feeding them and the sewerage and everything. Really, you start thinking about it. None of it works. Absolutely none of it works. So, these were already here. Again, for me, they were already here, and we found them, we done them up, we painted them white, we had a World Fair, we knocked them all down. That's as we've said before, but I just thought there was some good footage of there's some good footage of some of these buildings in this World Fair. I mean, and this is just one World Fair as well. Obelisk here as well, a nice obelisk. Love an obelisk. So, yeah, again, it is what it is, really. They're just any more photos here. What have we got? Yeah, all like Roman, would you believe it? An advert. All Romanesque, like buildings, etc. Hold on, I'll get through this fucking advert. I'm not a big fan of this guy, to be honest. He's a flat earther.
Chicago could all be coming from a time period where we actually had very advanced technology that they don't want us to know about. Because if we did, we would know that we're not just always evolving and getting smarter.
No, that's not the crack at all here. We're in effect going slightly backwards. We probably have far more technology than we believe we have. And, well, the global elites do, and the rich people. And, yeah, we're getting none of it, to be honest. Yeah, we'll be far ahead of what we believe we are. They have definitely cured cancer. They've done that in the fucking 70s, to be honest. But yeah, you're very much cattle. Like everybody is cattle here. We're slaves. We're cattle. We're a number. You're your national insurance number in England, in effect. Yeah, and there's no other way to describe it, to be honest. So yeah, the rich people run the world. They have done for at least 250 years. And the world that you're currently living in is a world they built. It's going exactly to plan, and they're currently in the process of building another world, the New World Order. So it's gonna. I mean, there's multiple options here how this is all gonna play out. Again, if you're pre-tribulation, post-tribulation, an atheist, do you know what I mean? Yeah, like there is options. Only one of them's true, to be honest. But I mean, there is options, but only one of them's true. So we'll see. It'll all unfold before us. But I just thought again, some more good pictures here of these world fairs. That they're absolutely ridiculous here. Knocked them all down. But for me, I think built in the Millennium Reign is the crack, and that's kind of as well explains how the fuck we built them with no technology. So yeah, again, the jury's out, I suppose. That time will tell. Watch this space. We'll leave it there, peace.